All right. I got a lot to say about the For Harriet video that I watched. And now I know what this back and forth, who was actually talking the back and forth. I know that Chrissy made a video. I didn't know who she was referring to. Um, and I don't even think it matters who's referring to who, whether it's for Harriet towards Chrissy or Chrissy towards for Harriet or whatever. I think the conversation is more important about the different camps. And I've already said there was going to be a train wreck, when it came down to the different camps, of black women. I think that's really, um, been highlighted. And we also, as we all know, we have different camps, of black men, and we have disagreements on, other things. But this whole, um, social justice warriorship, I mean, it's led and it comes from the women. Now, where do I want to begin? I mean, God, there's so much I could say about this video and just this whole conversation. So I listened to For Harriet's video, and she basically confirmed everything I said in my last two videos, even though it wasn't specific about the women. Um, she's of the camp of including transgender women, and remember, as I've said before, this is like the one area where I feel like women, at the very least, try to be consistent. If they're about, we must eliminate all forms of oppression, they're about all forms of oppression. And what defines oppression is very individual, and it's just arbitrary. But I can say, for the very least, they're consistent. And that whole all forms of oppression, you might as well replace the word with all forms of standards. As I said before, because there's in groups and there's out groups. The strange thing is the very system that black people say that they're trying to compete against. There's an in group and an out group. There's in groups and out groups. There's standards. There's criteria. There's prerequisites. All of that stuff. I don't even know how you could compete when you're not operating by the rules of the game, so to speak, or you're not operating by the same standards of measure, right? And this ends up being a problem for black people, because black people dive into the game is rigged and the standards of measure are something that we can't live up to, especially in regards to black women's beauty. So I can understand where For Harriet is coming from, from that standpoint. But I think a lot of people, they just run with that, and then they throw the baby out with the bathwater. It starts out like it's a problem with black men like 50 Cent and Lil Wayne talking about they want exoticals and they have Eurocentric tastes, right? It starts there, and then next thing you're sitting there in the crowd like, yeah, we got to get rid of colorism and these self-hating brothers. Yeah, right. And then next thing you know, it's, losing weight is Eurocentric. Shaving your legs is Eurocentric. High heels is Eurocentric. Wearing a dress is Eurocentric. I mean, it just goes to the infinite. And you're just like sitting there like, whoa. I didn't know we was throwing all that shit out. But see, I already knew that. It was going to go, to that extreme, because these new social justice warrior ideologies, they're boundless. They have no end to them. They just keep going. It's like gun control. It's like, well, we just want to get rid of the assault weapons, and then they go, oh well, we want to get rid of semi-automatic handguns. Oh well, we want to reduce magazines down to 10 rounds. Well, we only think that you should only have 7 rounds, which they try to do in New York with the SAFE Act. Right. And then, well, we only think you should only have a 2-shot Derringer. Well, we don't think that you should have any guns at all. Right. And so you go from, we just want sensible gun laws and gun safety all the way to, we don't want you to have any guns at all. And so we go from attacking the idea of Eurocentric standards of beauty to all the way to there should be no standards for beauty at all. Right. And so when you listen to the list, for Harriet, she went through the list. She was like fat women, transgender women, unattractive women. Just single mothers. Just every undesirable category in the eyes of men. She threw up there like nobody should judge them. And what's funny is like men are never a part of this conversation. We're just the oppressors, right? Even if there is nothing is said and we just go out here as men and we pick what we want, like we elevate childless women over single mothers. We elevate women who are physically fit over women who are morbidly obese. We elevate women that we deem to be attractive over others. By default, we become the evil villains because just in our picking, right, it creates division. Let the social justice warrior women say it. It creates a hierarchy, and it's all you evil men's fault. Right? And I want you to think about how crazy that is. Because what these women want is they want to take an undesirable group or categories or groups of women and make them desirable, make them on par with the women that, are or already currently desirable. Now, I'm not saying that, example, black men have not been affected by this system of white supremacy and colorism and featureism and hair texturism and all that stuff, because, that's a reality. We see this with the, 50 Cent and Lil Wayne in their conversation, associating, the anti-blackness that exists, the associating black women with poverty, associating black women with basically, they're just Chevys. And black women have their own version of this. They're just black men, where, you get women where even if you have a black man that's doing his damn thing, covering his expenses, can provide a decent lifestyle, you get women that go to the extreme of, well, if he's not solving world hunger or if he's not, winning a race war, I can't get with that. Right. Because they have their own inferiority complexes, about black men, just as black men have their own inferiority complexes about black women and their beauty in relationship or relative to other races of women that are heavily promoted. And again, going back to my video about the whole expanded light skin universe where, it's like black women are standing in the corner by themselves and then all the other groups are part of that, that beige category, that loose textured hair category, that Eurocentric feature, category. When you look at, the rest of the women in the world, Indian women, they have straight hair despite having dark skin. Asian women, they have straight hair and they have fair skin despite having Asian eyes. Or Arab women, essentially, people, they're white, and, Latina women, there's all this, the black women are very unique. Just as unique as black men arguably are. And I argue that the only reason that black men don't face the same scrutiny that black women face is because of, men and women are measured, differently. Men have the outlet of money, status, power, and wealth. And so you have black men who are, promoted in the media, sports, entertainment, and stuff like that. And so that's why you see, more black men that seemingly think that they can, freely move about or that they have universal appeal. And then you get these men who think that because they have universal appeal as a black man, that they must go out there and find a woman and have a woman on their arm that also has universal appeal, and recognizing that the black woman does not have universal appeal because she is not universally promoted like other races of women and the expanded light skin universe. You end up with black men coming out and making statements like 50 Cent and Lil Wayne, sitting up there and co-signing it. I hope I made that clear. But in listening to For Harriet, what I was saying to myself, I was like, and I'm saying, Chrissy and I used to always get into arguments and fights about this. Always get into fights because she would feel I'm blaming black women and that I'm trying to put it all on the women, right? And I'm gonna tell you, it hit me listening to For Harriet. One of the reasons why I harp on women a lot. And it's because if you look at it, right, people will say, well, the women are such and such a way because of something black men did or did not do. No, it's not entirely true. Black man doesn't have to do or not do anything. And you will have women who are on this bullshit, who are on the For Harriet tip and the feminism and everything else. See, black women like to come online and push this idea that the only reason they're on this bullshit is because black men failed and the community is broken and the system of white supremacy has crushed you all and you all didn't provide and this, that, and the third, blah, 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 right? And there's an element of truth to that, right? But I'm saying let's really look at what For Harriet is trying to push. And this is why when I came online and I had my arguments about, even Chrissy and I went back and forth about the ugly girl argument. Okay. The problem with patriarchy is patriarchy does establish standards, rules and regulations to live by and whatnot. And it's designed to have there to be an exchange. Okay, you like the joke that I made in my last video, where, you got the stupid black men talking about it's not about the money. And then you got the stupid black women running around talking about it's not about the beauty. Right. And that is a part of the exchange. If a man is responsible for women and children and has to basically provide his labor in exchange for her womb and her body, to raise children so he can pass on, his patriarchal legacies and wealth and whatnot. It's an exchange, right? So she passes on, she not passes on, but she offers her womb, her reproductive ability to give him a male heir or a female heir so that he can pass on whatever he's going to pass on and be this participating member in a community. The women reap the benefits of, participating in this community, which comes with everything else, the media promotion and, the value of the women in the community and which builds up their self-esteem and all that shit comes with it. Right. And the men, they offer the infrastructure, the building and roads and all that stuff, the jobs, the opportunities, right? Because they're supposed to be working with other men. So you have women playing their role and men playing their role. The problem with patriarchy for certain women that would be put in the undesirable camp or the I fucked up and made a mistake and had a baby by the wrong guy camp is that these women have to sit around and wait for a man to choose them. Right? Because a man ultimately decides where he puts his resources. Women run around, my body, my choice. Yeah, men run around, my money, my choice. And so if a woman does not have, at the very least, the what is needed to attract a high status black male or even a decent status black male, right? Because every woman wants to marry up or date up, right? That's the whole hypergamy idea, right? If she can't do that, then she's relegated to men who are at her level or below her level. And many of those men don't have anything to offer. And this is where you'll have women who will argue either for resources for the state, which is something that For Harriet has argued many times. She doesn't want to have any kids and doesn't support, being a single mother for herself, but she does support single motherhood. She supports the idea that women should, just have access to resources and essentially be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do. So you got two groups, two mentalities going on, and they do overlap. The I want to do whatever the fuck I want to do, and the, I don't have what I need in order to attract or get the most high status, high value, productive black man or any other race of man that I can get. And so patriarchy is not going to benefit me. Look at it like the riots in the street, where black people recognize, that this system does not benefit them, so they don't give a fuck about tearing it down. Or I was watching a video of what's his name, Serpents or something like that. He's this guy, he speaks Mandarin. He was in China for many years, and he's putting out videos just talking about his experiences in China, and he exposed a lot of negative things about China. But one of the videos that I watched recently, he was talking about the mass stabbings in China. If you don't know about mass stabbings of children in China, America has mass shootings in schools and stuff like that, and in China they have mass stabbings. And he said that unlike the mass stabbings or mass shootings in America, where it's a student who's typically disgruntled and attacks other students, in China these are middle-aged men that will attack the children at these schools. And he breaks down why he feels that they do that, because he talks about there's a huge wealth inequality in China. Remember, they have that whole one child policy. So China killed a lot of its girls because, again, he points this later on, that children are basically, they're their parents' retirement. And since boys have more potential to earn than daughters, a lot of Chinese who could only have one child didn't value their daughters. But this created a rippling effect where you had a lot of, infant, femicide. And so now there's this huge imbalance between, eligible men and eligible women. So now the market is in women's favor, where they can sit there and, they're getting tons of offers from guys to be their wife. Well, if you're, a white, an Asian guy, and you come from a poor working class background and everything else, you come from one of the little small villages, and you go and you move to Shenzhen, you know what I mean? And let's say you don't make it. You know what I mean? You're being promised all this stuff. Oh, come work here, da 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 da. You can move up and this, that, and third. It doesn't happen for you. And then you sitting around, you're watching these other Chinese kids that are, the children of wealthy Chinese people, and they got cell phones and computers and all this shit that you didn't have. You're resentful of those children. And then not only are you resentful of those children, you want to get back at the society. And the best way to get back at the society is through the children, by stabbing the children in the schools, or this is how they think. Because you could be killing the child of a politician, or the child of a police officer, or a child of, all these people that you resent, essentially bringing them down to the same level in which, the mass stabber started, right? Because he doesn't have a future, and without, because they have no social safety net in China like that, and social security and whatnot. If you take away somebody's child that's supposed to be able to, earn and provide for their parents in their elderly age, you've basically taken away their retirement, right? And so when a system does not work for a particular group of people, understand that there's a lot of people that are going to want that system to burn down, or they don't care whether it burns down. Or they'll help any way that they can for it to burn down. Why do they give a fuck? It doesn't benefit them. So if you're an overweight, unattractive, black woman, and you got to sit around and you got to wait for some patriarchal dude to come through and provide for you, and you're at the back of the I want to get with you line, you're not trying to hear about patriarchy. Because at the end of the day, even if you co-signed it, you still wouldn't win in that structure. You still wouldn't get the best of the best. Like, you're not even in the running. And so this goes into why, I end up coming for women a lot, in these arguments about, the broken black community and, weak sons, and where these weak sons are coming from. Because, like, you take a woman like for Harriet, even if she went out there and got with a man and let's say she had a son, she's not going to get involved in any patriarchal relationship. She fundamentally does not believe in that concept. And honestly, I don't think every woman starts here. I think that women respond to how the world responds to them. So, over time, a woman will, she'll think, okay, like nobody really knows what their true market value is. It's based on, how many wins you get, how many people are, hitting on you, coming up to you, and that lets you kind of gauge where you stand. It's like that test that they did where people put the numbers on their head and everybody was told to try to get the highest number that they could get. And the ones and the twos, they ended up with each other, and the tens and the nines, they ended up with each other. And then the five and the sixes, they ended up with each other, right? And so, it's like you don't really, and they didn't know what their number was on their head. Nobody knows what their number is, until, you get into school and high school and you're interacting with other people. And then you kind of find out where you fall on the pecking order, you see. And so I think that you get a lot of women who, once they realize they're not that high up on the pecking order, aside from the bitterness, aside from the anger, they will start, diving into, alternative theories. They will start diving into, alternative lifestyles and ways of being and, things that are, they feel are more conducive to themselves. And so, part of the problem, and it's very clever what the social justice group, has done. It's kind of like Black Lives Matter, right? You shouldn't disagree with the statement, but you can disagree with the organization. But if you dare disagree with the organization, oh my God, you must disagree with the statement. You're racist. You're like, wait a minute, but I'm black. Like, no, you must be racist. God forbid any white person jump through and say they don't agree with Black Lives Matter. They're racist, you see? So, and I'm not saying that you don't have white people that will disagree with Black Lives Matter and they are racist or can't be racist. But I'm saying there's been a lot of hijacking going on. It's the same thing that I've identified on the grapevine, where it's like, again, all that IOU shit. We cape for you. We went to bat for you. The transgender LGBT community has gone to bat for black women, especially against, black men or misogyny. That was their backdoor in on creating that IOU for black women, which is why you have all this confusion when black women running around, they're like, no, but we support transgenders. But I mean, are you guys really trying to like come into our space and take over black girls' magic and say that we have to talk to our own heterosexual or heteronormative cisgendered black men and our sons and tell them that it's okay to get with you? And they're like, yes, that's precisely what we're saying. And you owe us. You owe us because we marched for you. We caped for you. We spoke out against black men and misogyny for you. You see, it was hilarious about it is that's the same thing that I say goes on with black women when it comes to, when they want to come through and try to, shift things and change the paradigm and everything. They come through with those, oh, let me help you. Let me assist you. Let me give you back rubs, blowjobs, and sandwiches. I supported you, yada, yada, yada. And then, bam, they come in with the fuckery. You see? And the LGBT community has done the same thing with black women, which is why they're all over the place. And there's this struggle, right? Because a lot of women have bought into the, we must come together and form all types of, bonds and eliminate all forms of oppression. And so you get a lot of women, they were for that. But then again, it's like, damn, this sounds a whole lot like, I thought we started with sensible gun laws and reason, background checks. Now we're all the way over to assault weapons bans and 10-round magazines, and you shouldn't have this and that and everything. And they're like, whoa. And I think that's where, some of the confusion comes in, on their part. But I'm just saying, these other social justice warriors, they come through the back door with the we assisted you, yada, yada, yada. And then they sneakily try to change the whole paradigm because, again, the paradigm does not work for them. This is just the reality. It's like, and I don't know why. I do know why, because some people, I don't know, they either let themselves go too far or, they just got shafted, with a, shitty ass roll of dice. I don't know. Like example, like I was fortunate. I was born, a tall man. I'm fortunate. I don't know what it's like to be a guy who's only 5'5" and have every woman, look down at you like you're just nothing. I don't know what that feels like. You see? I don't know. I also don't know what it feels like to be a hit black woman. I don't know what that feels like. Or a woman that really struggles to lose weight. I don't know what that feels like. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, I could have been some just tall but real scrawny with an Adam's apple. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, hell, I got the pictures to prove it. I mean, tall, scrawny with the Adam's apple. I was there. You know what I mean? But I tried out for football in high school, and I didn't like football, stuck with basketball. But the one thing I kept was working out. I was like, nah, man. And I started getting different reactions and responses from women. I was like, oh, shit, I like this shit. You know what I mean? Just like you see with a lot of black women, they were overweight and they lost the weight, and they show you the before and after pictures, and they're like, God damn, like that bitch is a baddie. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's over there thirsting over Kathy Freeman Drayton, and then it's like, she posts constantly her before and after pictures. I've seen her before pictures, and I'm like, that bitch ain't look like shit. She ain't had nothing going on. Because truth be told, she kind of has a lion face. You know what I mean? She kind of got that 1990s show Beauty and the Beast face going on. It's not a terrible face, but I'm just saying she got a very lioness face if you really look at her. But I'm saying she worked on her body, and then she got her, her man, who used to be fat, by the way. He's another one. He got before and after pictures. Kathy Freeman Drayton's man's or husband's what he previously was. He was overweight. He got a picture of him where he's like wearing a backwards hat or something. He's in the mirror. I mean, he was a pudgy bastard, and he got it right, got it tight, and so he put in the work. And you see, that's like another thing where it's like, and I'm going to sound kind of conservative with it. I agree. And this is why it's like, I feel like the most balanced people in the world are the people that are a little bit conservative and a little bit liberal. If you get too liberal, then everybody's a charity case and everybody's a welfare case, and all standards are eliminated. If you're too conservative, then you kind of start rolling into this sort of, what do you call that shit? Divine, racist, sort of, it's just, that's their role here. You start sounding like the warlock from the Time Machine, and that's just their role here. And you start, what's the word that I'm looking for? The phrase I'm looking for that the royalty used to like have as an explanation of why they get to be king. Like, it's just my divine right. So conservatives start, it's my divine right. Or they'll sit there and completely ignore, structural privilege or generational wealth or transgressions that happened in the past as to why they started where they started, and then just say it's all about hard work. Having balance is where you recognize everybody starts at different levels, but you also recognize that you recognize that there's inequality in the world, but you also recognize that, as my friend used to say, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Right? I'm going to say it again. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And there's a lot of people, I've seen it, I've witnessed it. I knew these sisters, man, these chicks were bad as hell at 19. Okay? And I saw it. I mean, they had big ass, they were 19 years old, big ass titties, little itty bitty waist, fat ass, all that shit, right? 2 light-skinned sisters, right? So they had light-skin privilege too. And I told them, I said, look, you about as thick as you need to be at this point, right? Dudes would kill. Like, I mean, even if they just came together and just took pictures, how guys like that freaking almost lesbo, freaking incestual, two twin chicks with big ass titties and bathing suits, hugging up on each other or whatever. I'm like, they could have made a killing on Instagram or whatever. But What did they do? They let themselves get fat. They did it, put on a bunch of tattoos. One of them ended up having a baby. I was like, what the fuck are y'all doing? I mean, they just totally fucked it up. I mean, they were quote unquote blessed in a colorist world, and they fucked it all up. I mean, just fucked it all up. And I'm just like, you were gifted. You were gifted bodies, faces, right? Light skin in the world of color. You were gifted all this shit, right? And yet, instead of taking it to the next level, you just fucking squandered it. And so, it's like you get some of these people that they weren't blessed with anything. And then they kind of like wallow in, like they sulk in where they are. And then like they go from like bad to worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how many women I've seen. You look at a chick and you like, man, that chick ain't even all that cute in the face, but she in the gym. And I know, cause I'll be working right out next to him. You be sitting there, chicks, you like, man, she's only like a 6.5. You know what I mean? But the body is slamming because she's in there just killing it. You know what I mean? And, she can doll herself up. And I mean, I've had women just say that, they're like, I'm not very photogenic. You know what I mean? Like going into the whole, and I'm getting way too deep in this shit, but I'm saying, just discussing, like, there's women who are drop dead gorgeous and beautiful. And then you have women that are just sexy. You know what I'm saying? Or sexy in the right outfit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you could take a woman, like even for Harriet has some decent pictures. She said in the video that, she's got Instagram pictures where she's, got her hair done and makeup done and nails done and wearing heels. She said, I used to be a heel wearing motherfucker. Now she's just so anti that I'm like, okay, so now you're not even going to do any of that stuff. Right? Arguably, it could be said, oh, well, that's still not going to get her a multimillionaire. Okay, it's not going to get her a multimillionaire, but you don't just sit there and just say, fuck all of it. Because you feel, see, this is where people, they get too ahead of themselves. They take shit too far. You know what I mean? Like, well, now, I don't believe in this, so I'm not going to conform because that would be me conforming to shit. That's the equivalent of the dudes that come online or used to come online talking about, well, the best way to avoid gold diggers is to be broke, is to stay broke and be a broke dusty, right? So, and I got ahead of myself because I wanted to talk about this whole raising of the boys. If for Harriet was to raise a son, what you think you're going to get patriarchy out of that? See, this is the difference between women and men, when it comes to patriarchy. And this is part of the problem. First off, we already know that she wouldn't be teaching heteronormative cisgender gender roles. She would be up there basically telling him that he can do whatever he wants to do, or he has the option not to do X, Y. And this is part of the problem with black boys that are raised by some of these radical women. I posted the other day a video from Raw Unfiltered, right, which is the lawyer guy, Dennis, light-skinned dude, and he did a video where he talked about what black men fail to teach their sons. And he talked about raising his own sons, and he talked about how this is not a democracy. You all will be going to college, and you will be practicing STEM. You will not be going into some other old bullshit, journalism or African American studies or some bullshit like that. You're going to go into some that's going allow you to, provide, for yourself. And he put him in a martial arts class. I mean, just all the patriarchal shit. I mean, the shit was kick ass, because he said where black men fail is not teaching their sons how to survive in this world, right? And so the problem with women a lot of times is that there are a lot of women who push the idea that you don't have to do something if you don't feel like it. Here we go into feelings. If you don't feel like doing something, you don't need to do it. The problem with that mentality being instilled in boys is the fact that the survival of the community is predicated on what the men provide. Now, the women want to sit there and they want to act like patriarchy is just some made up concept designed to strictly benefit, the boys or benefit men. But again, we see how women and children end up suffering when their men are weak and their men do not provide and their men do not build. And this is another area where I would get into arguments with not only Chrissy, but many other women about, the role of men and how they're, impacted by this sort of role reversal that goes on in the community, this sort of confusing rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? I would rather women say, hey, we looking for patriarchy. Everything that Chrissy's saying now, I would much rather hear black women say that, okay, than hear the type of rhetoric that I'm hearing from, for Harriet. Okay. And my where I really get angered with black women is the women who are trying to have their cake and eat it too. The ones that, example, it's like, think about it like this. We must eliminate all forms of oppression. Everybody should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Do men get that option? Or are we just chattel labor? Because remember, for Harriet she believes that women should have access to social programs and social welfare and anything that any resource that they need, they should be able to just tap into, again, without having, men have final say over it. So I'm like, well, at that point, we're just chattel labor. And the reason I say that is because the question is, well, who's going to provide all this for single mothers? Whose job is it to provide and create all of this wealth that single mothers are just able to just reach into and tap into, or women and transgender women and heteronormative, all this crap, right? Or non-binary, all that crap. How are they supposed to tap into the shit? You see, like, women come up with like dumbass ideas and these theories and shit. Like they're like the person that comes up with a concept car, but they haven't covered the specs of the engine. They don't even tell you what type of fuel is supposed to be in it. It's like, okay, so how is this thing going to be propelled? Like, how is this vehicle that you have created going to move forward? You done talked about all the other details, but what about the engine? And they don't realize that it's like men are the engine. You get into all this nonsense where, women don't do nothing but build. We are the creators of life, all that shit. What does it matter if you, quote unquote, create life, aside from the fact that women are not doing it by themselves? But what does it matter if you are, quote unquote, creating life if there's nothing that has been established to sustain that life? What does it matter if you're to create, you're going to have babies in the middle of the Sahara Desert? Even animals don't procreate in the dead of winter. They procreate in the spring, and then the babies and the fauna and not the fauna, but the baby deer and antelope and goats and all that shit. They're raised in the summer, and then they go through their first winter. While yes, they're still small, but they can actually like run around and shit like that. They're not gonna freeze to death. They put on a couple of pounds from eating the grasses of the summer and whatnot. So they're somewhat equipped. But you get women out here, they think that being the creators of life is just the ultimate, which for Harriet probably wouldn't agree with, because no, that creates division because you're saying that women who can produce children are more valuable to society than women who can't produce children. I'm like, actually they are, because the whole point of society is for society to continue, society to be, self-sustaining. And that's the whole concept of why we procreate and have children. Otherwise, it would just be one generation of everybody and then we all die. It's about a continuation, you see. But, what was I saying? I was going somewhere with the hold on a second. Oh, bottom line, there's no consideration as to what men actually want and desire. Like, as I said in my previous video, at the end of the day, men, you don't want to hear this, don't participate. You don't have to participate. See, the problem with a lot of us as black men is we don't have no fucking discipline. And then on top of that, we listen to this bullshit, because we don't, a lot of us don't have the keen mind, and we allow ourselves to be shamed into bullshit and, hearing all this sort of rhetoric and whatnot. And then on top of that, you have dudes that don't want to have to do the responsible thing and build and maintain and everything else. So they'll be quick to co-sign and jump on women who are talking like for Harriet. Because, again, let's be consistent. If for Harriet can sit up there and talk about, no standards, anybody should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do, all inclusivity and everything else. Well, don't you think that men are going to say the same thing? Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm with you, sister. Yeah, broke Dusties for life. Like, don't you think they're going to jump up? Now you got broke Dusties in the room. Yeah, a man shouldn't have to make that type of money. Like, because that's the male version of fat bitches should be included. Yeah, I should be able to be in a relationship and date and be valued and appreciated despite the fact that I'm not bringing anything to the table as a man. You know what I'm saying? Because in for Harriet's tearing down of everything. Hell, this is why that I used to clown that phrase, we must eliminate the heteronormative, cisgendered, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. That shit covers all bases. Now you can't even talk about the black community is broken, impoverished, and everything else. Now you can't even talk about fixing it. You can't even talk about, well, black men should own and operate the economic landscape of their own community, because she threw in anti-capitalism into the mix. You know what I'm saying? Like as though we're supposed to be out here operating on some other paradigm. Like I'm supposed to trade you 3 chickens for a goat or some shit like that. Like we need to go back to an African barter system. Just nonsense. Don't get me wrong, you can exchange services. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey man, I do drywall, blah 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 blah. Hey, you need to. Hey, I need my website made. So how about I do your drywall and then you make my website for my company and we can call it even. Okay, deal. Yeah, I'm all for that. But I'm saying to sit there and throw out money. And then see, this creates even worse problems, because it's not just the issue of the women fighting each other for, femininity and hypergamy and social justice warriorism and everything else like that. Then you end up where you get the confusion of the type of men that would fit into all the bullshit that For Harriet is talking about, when they're going to be the shining examples that women like Chrissy are going to run with when they want to talk about, look, see, and black men that are on this and they want us to be warriors, and they're going to be that. They're going to be the men that Chrissy's going to complain about, or the hypergamous camp is going to complain about, right? Because the only men that are going to co-sign for Harriet are not going to be your men that are winning in a patriarchy. It goes in both directions. The women who like patriarchy are the women who win in patriarchy. The men who like patriarchy are the men who win in patriarchy. It goes back to what Mekhi Phifer's character said in Paid in Full. I think it was Mekhi Phifer's character. You know what I'm saying? When who's the actor that was playing A. Phasian, and he was in the bed after he got shot. And what did he say? He was like, yeah, man, when I'm out here selling drugs, I feel like one of them ball players, man. I love the game. If I didn't have a game, like what would I be? I feel like I'm Bird or Magic Johnson, all that shit, right? And I'm just paraphrasing, but it goes back to what I said about, when you look at The Walking Dead and you look at Negan's character, I think he was a high school gym teacher or some shit like that, janitor, high school, something. Okay, he worked in a school. In The Walking Dead, he is like the fucking ringleader. In normal society, he was just, high school gym teacher, or just, a janitor, or whatever the hell he was. You see what I'm saying? And so you get people who relish in shit being fucked up. It's like, again, to further illustrate my point, let's look at street dudes and street culture. You know what I'm saying? A motherfucker that was getting shitty ass grades in school and everything else like that. Maybe in the only subject he kicks ass in, because I noticed this about young men that turn into drug dealers, they'll fail everything except for math class. It's the most hilarious shit in the world. They will fail every D's, F's, all the way fucking down, A- in fucking math. Okay? And then they'll go out there and they'll sell drugs. And they will be like fucking kingpin status until they get killed or until they get locked up. Okay? and they love it. That's where they thrive. That's if you talk about fixing the black community. If it was fixed, what would their role be? What could they do? What they're doing has no place and has no purpose in a intact, thriving, black community where everybody has gainful employment. I'm saying you would see significantly less of that. In a broken community, they thrive. Okay? And so all these people that are running around anti-patriarchy, anti-structure and everything, you do have some people who thrive or they think they thrive in anti-structure. Okay, because again, going back to what Harriet said, they don't want to have to do shit that they don't fucking feel like doing. And see, women can say that and, there's not too much of an impact, or at least the impact you don't see immediately. Like when men say, I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. It goes back to what Dr. T. Hassan Johnson said in a video that he recently did, where he brought up, what did he bring up? He brought up, hold on a second, it's on the tip of my tongue. Hold on. He brought up the protection of women. And he said what men are looking for as it pertains to the exchange for protection of women is respect and cooperation. And he brought up the fact that protection is not just physical. He made the point that when a man goes and moves, like let's say, moves into a safe environment to raise his children in a safe environment, that is a form of protection. When a man tells his daughter not to wear a certain outfit because he knows how, scrupulous men will respond to that, that is a form of protection. Okay, I don't want men looking at you or thinking certain, I don't even want certain shit to even enter their mind. That's a form of protection. And so he said, he made the point, and I mean, he drove this point home. He was like, the only thing a man can do if a woman's not willing to cooperate, quote unquote, submit. If a woman's not willing to cooperate is walk away, because he cannot protect somebody who's just going to run off and do whatever the fuck they want to do. It goes back to that situation down in Florida where you had the cowboy with the hat and he had that pregnant black woman who was being accosted by the white man about a parking space, and the black guy with the cowboy hat and a gun on his hip came rolling up, and he was there to protect her. That's what he did. And the black woman, she got in the car and then got out of the car. Bitch, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing still running your mouth, standing over here in this man's face? Do you not see me standing here with a gun and a very intimidating cowboy hat? Do you not see me standing here? No, and it's like you cannot protect women. That's the crazy thing. The insult, the slap in the face when it comes to black women running around screaming, black men don't protect us, black men don't protect us. And you got scores and scores of black women to varying degrees, mileage may vary, who operate on this. I should be able to do whatever I fucking want to do. And you all are just going to be chattel labor. And you're supposed to come at my beckoning call and protect me, no matter what, no matter the fact that whether I'm cooperating in a structure that is beneficial to you. Ain't shit for free out here. That's just the reality. Protection is not for free, despite all the crap that women believe. Like I was listening for Harriet's video, and she's up there talking about women being deserving of this and deserving of that, and all these rejects, and the whole category of desirables that she gave being deserving, of X, Y, and Z, deserving of protection, the same protection that heteronormative cisgender. I'm like, in whose world? In whose world? So let me get this right. It's my duty to go out here and protect a transgender woman the same way I protect a heteronormative cisgender woman. How does that benefit me? What do I get out of protecting a transgender woman, aside from the fact that that's really a fucking man? Like I said before, I don't even know why transgender women getting their ass beat is even thrown in the category of violence against women as people try to attempt to make it. I'm like, no, that's a man beating another man's ass. You know why a lot of times you'll see transgender women getting killed and whatnot by black men is because you can't ungay, as Captain Solo likes to say. You can't ungay. Okay? If anybody even thinks that you're fucking around with a transgender, nigga, you gay. Even other black women, heteronormative cisgender black women, will see you as gay. We can talk, they can sit there, and that's the crazy part. The same women will sit there, many cisgender women will sit there and co-sign ideas like, oh, you need to go out there and you need to accept transgender women, da-da-da. Let you get in a car with a transgender woman, oh, that nigga gay. And they will be the main ones running around spreading rumors about how your ass is gay. And that's the part that's the part that kills me about women. They talk out of two sides of their face. They'll say, oh, you shouldn't be intimidated by a woman's success. Okay, motherfucker's not intimidated by a woman's success, goes off, gets within a role reverse relationship with a woman that's more successful than he is. 5 months later, he's weak, he's broken, dusty, I should have married a white man. Weakness. You see what I'm saying? Talking out of both sides of their face. You know what I'm saying? And that's the type of shit that makes you want to put hands on a bitch. And that's the type of shit which results in just that. Okay. The other thing, why aren't transgender men attacked like transgender women? Because they're not a threat. You know what I'm saying? A transgender dude, it's already established that they're not into dudes. They're into women. They want to date women. The most a bunch of heteronormative cisgender men will say is like, damn, you got a bad bitch. You got a badder bitch than I got. You know what I mean? And then not only that, heteronormative cisgendered men also believe that, again, women can be gay and then come back to be heterosexual. Men can't ungay. They cannot ungay. Because you'll see that you'll see the transgender man or hardcore, young Ma looking black woman. Young Ma, she done went out there. Who she messed with that? What's that Burgess chick? The chick that was running around with T.I. for a while. She's sitting on young Ma's lap and everything else like that. Niggas still thinking they got a shot. They still think, oh, well, eventually she gonna need a real man with some real dick. You know what I mean? The fact that she fucked with young Ma is not going to have men throw her away any less. You're saying or is it any more? I don't know. But anyway, it's not gonna have her throw her away. They're not gonna throw her away, period. Okay, hell, they're not even throwing her away because even in the fact that she's a single mother. Why? Because she still looks good and she's still young. So they're not gonna throw her away. You know what I mean? I mean, this shit gets retarded. And now that I'm bringing up ageism, I'll just be waiting until For Harriet starts talking about how 20-year-old men should be getting with 80-year-old women. Who are you to discriminate against 80-year-old women? That's ageism. You see how retarded this shit can get? Totally fucking retarded. You know what I mean? But anyway, going back to transgender men, they're not a threat. That's not to say that a transgender man can't get his ass beat, because a transgender man can get his ass beat. Because a transgender man has something to prove, you see. And see, because they were born a woman, they don't really know the ins and outs of what it really is about when it comes to being a man. It's just something that they aspire to. They don't understand the codes and shit, the codes and ideas of disrespect. Like I pointed out about that brother that got killed in Houston at the Seaside Lounge. Who went up and thought he was protecting, the female that he came to the club with, in front of a table of a bunch of Ray-Rays and Pookies. They beat his ass in the club, followed him out to his car, and then killed him while in his car by doing a fucking mag dump on his car. Okay? So men fuck up other men for the slightest of infractions as what is perceived as disrespect. So for a transgender woman to come in this situation and think that she's a man and she don't have a dick, which is even more of a fucking insult, again, men amongst men, in the eyes of men amongst men, oh, that transgender man is going to get fucked up. But we don't hear too much about that because apparently they don't try. They're just trying to have relationships with women, which is like, okay, cool. Okay. But, transgender women on the other hand, they should know that no, you just can't run up on a heterosexual dude and try to offer up your services or blowjobs or come on to a dude like that who you better make sure that he swings that way. Because again, now a man has to defend his masculinity because a man cannot ungay. Once people have it in the eyes, like, oh man, I saw you standing next to that transgender woman, now all of a sudden the slightest idea or concept of interest is going to ruin that man's life. It's going to ruin his career. I mean, it's no different than what you see with the hashtag Me Too and how you got middle managers and men in corporate America who no longer want to take women underneath their wing because they don't want the perception of, sexual harassment or any of that bullshit. They're not about to lose their career over some pussy. Fuck that. And so, that's what they do to safeguard themselves. I mean, I ain't taking no winning. Okay, cause you're going to have to call me sexist from a distance because you're not going to, I'd rather be called, he doesn't work with women rather than be called somebody who is trying to pull a Harvey Weinstein. You see, better that than be a Harvey Weinstein, but, what else? I'm just saying, I mean, this sort of shit creates fucking confusion. It creates hella confusion. It is natural for men, and don't get me wrong, you got men who ain't never wanted to do shit, and this is like their easy exit. You know what I mean? But like I said, it does not require, black men to fail for women to be on this shit. All it requires is for them to wake up and recognize that, that they only have a number 1 or a 2 sticker on their forehead as opposed to a 10 or a 9. And once they realize that, that at best, all they'll get is mediocrity. Oh, no, hell no, they're not going to support patriarchy. And see, the dumb part, the unfortunate part is you've had a lot of heteronormative cisgendered women who have, because of, the 1 or 2 things that they don't like about patriarchy or, a man cheating or something like that. These social justice warrior type of women, like the For Harriet camp, they've been able to lure these women over there, with the Allison Walkers or the Alice Walkers, the Bell Hooks and all that stuff. They've been able to lure enough women over there. And I'm saying colorism doesn't help. Black men like 50 Cent and Lil Wayne sit up there talking about we want exoticals and light-skinned bitches and fuck a dark-skinned bitch and we have no use for them and everything. That does not help. And so because literally at that point, you're taking women who would otherwise be 9s and 10s and saying, well, just because they're black women or just because they're dark-skinned women, they have no value. So at that point, they go from being a 9 or a 10 to now they're a 1 or a 2. And they're like, well, shit, we might as well be right over there with For Harriet and the transgender women and the binary and non-conforming and overweight, morbidly obese and single mom. We might as well be over there because ain't no benefits coming over here. And that is where black men have collectively fucked up. That's where we have fucked up. It's like, hey man, you're throwing away your best. You're throwing them away. You're telling them they ain't shit and this, that, and the third. Your best. And it's like, look, hey, if you want to swirl it up or you think others are better and everything, I'm saying hop the fence, but hop the fence quietly. You don't need to make a fucking, an announcement about that shit. You don't need to make an announcement about that. Me personally, I thought that, black women wanted black men so much that, we could, make threats and say, hey, I'm going to go over the fence if you don't straighten out or, act right, again, not understanding all of the nuances with all of the information and details that we have now, that we have today in 2020. So forgive me. I apologize for all of my shortcomings as it pertains to, when I first came online. For the people who got problems with me when I first came online, I didn't have all this information. But now with all this information, oh hell, you're not gonna be able to get around me with bullshit and deflections and ad hominems and personal attacks and valid points but illegitimate complaints. That's not gonna work in 2020. You see. I mean, basically all rocks have been turned over. We have the information, and now, What For Harriet said in her video, she's 100% right. There will be two different communities. Now, I don't think that the heteronormative cisgender people should be, worried about that. The guys that want, patriarchy and the women that want patriarchy just recognize the exchange. You know what I'm saying? And be valuable, to the other sex. If you don't have any value, if you serve no purpose to the other sex, then no, you're not going to be valued. You see? But honestly, what For Harriet is talking about and all these other undesirables and rejects, or whatever you want to call them, are talking about, I don't even know how these people got to the front of the line and just with the loudspeaker, all this. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant, tactically, I don't know what's the word that I'm looking for. It was brilliant. The whole social justice warrior movement, #MeToo, everything, pulling on the heartstrings and recognizing the weaknesses that, other groups of women and men that they didn't necessarily agree with had, and then capitalizing on those disagreements. Oh, that was beautiful. That shit was stealth as fuck. But, like I said, into Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's credit, when he said, that Black Lives Matter was capitalizing on the currency of black men's bodies, I was like, what the fuck does that motherfucker mean? Man, I had to go over there. I went on that website and I looked up the About page and the Her Story page. And when black men were not even in the statement, and then when they said that black men are not basically to be a part of the leadership, and we're changing the leadership because of, who's typically been in leadership roles. And I always find that funny. We were typically in leadership roles, but yet and still it's constantly professed that black men ain't never led nothing, ain't never done anything for the black community. But yet here you are with the Black Lives Matter women talking about, men being traditionally in, certain roles, for these sorts of movements, these sorts of protests and black empowerment, movements. But it's really not black empowerment, it's LGBT empowerment, underneath the guise of black empowerment. You see? And I'm saying all these social justice warriors have come online and they really were the submarines on this shit. You know what I'm saying? While everybody, black men and black women, we up on the surface and our destroyers trying to destroy each other with cannons and shit. Man, that social justice warrior crowd, they have moved silently underneath the waves. And we didn't, and seriously, like we didn't see them coming. We only had, little tiny hints of this shit. Like, I thought we were talking about this. What the fuck is this? And there was another kick-ass analogy I was going to come up with, but it just slipped my mind. But this is interesting. Just looking at all this. But heteronormative cisgendered black men and women, they got to recognize, the game that has been played. That has been played on all of us. Because you can't form a community out of this. Again, I was looking for shit to be fixed. I'm like, okay, well, what are the complaints? Yeah, you're right about that. That needs to be corrected. You're right. Blah, 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 blah. And then, have the conversations with black men about, our issues, even with our own black male elders and, torches that were not passed and foundations that were not laid and, how we got to wear this scarlet letter of weak black maleness and everything else like that. Right. All these things are being discussed. But then all of a sudden that shit just turned into all this other shit. All transgender when you need to want to be with a man. And if you don't, we must eliminate all forms of oppression. Now, really, and y'all know me, I picked up on that shit on the grapevine, 2 years ago? I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And every time, Donovan, he would come through and start, we must eliminate all forms of oppression. And I had no problem with Donovan being gay. I'm talking about, I got a real problem with, the what heteronormative cisgender people need, who are the overwhelming vast majority of the black community, and how these other groups have come through and completely hijacked the conversation and put their needs above the community, and then claim that their needs and the community's needs are one and the same. I got a serious fucking problem with that. Because that is exactly, what has transpired. I'm sitting here still trying to remember my analogy, but I can't think of what it was. But this is where we are. And again, back to the men, and it is only natural that if you have a community that, like, if let's say the For Harriet ideology took over, it is only natural that you're going to have an exacerbation of what has already been going on in the black community as it pertains to black men and them essentially failing in regards to the concepts of patriarchy that, again, nobody even fucking believes in. How do you have black men held to a standard of white male patriarchal responsibility that nobody fucking believes in? How does that even work? Right? And this is the problem and the resentment that black men end up having, not just for the social justice warrior, but black women as a whole, for all of those who have very loudly co-signed this sort of ideology, where black women are not bound to any sort of standards, because, they're muling, it's, evil patriarchy, it's oppression, all that stuff. And they get to do whatever they want to do, but men are still tied to the burden of their patriarchal duties and responsibilities. And it's only natural that you're going to have a lot of men who are going to look at that and be like, wait a minute, you doing whatever the fuck you want to do? Well, why can't I do whatever the fuck I want to do? I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to go out here and slave and build and all this other shit. I don't want to have to go out there and do that because it sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like today was like what? Fucking like 90 degrees outside. You know what I'm saying? Would you want to be outside digging a ditch, in this sweltering heat? I most certainly wouldn't. You see what I'm saying? But that's the type of shit that men have to do, for society. That's why when you go in the black community and you're walking down the street, you see a whole bunch of fucking cracked pavement that was put there freaking 50 years ago that really needs to be resurfaced or redone. That's why you got potholes in your black community. That's why the Indians and Asians are the ones that run all the stores in your black community, and why you don't control the economic landscape of your community. That's why you have no promotion for dark-skinned women and girls in any sort of media that is controlled by black men. You see, my whole thing is like this. Okay, fuck it, let's go with it. I'm only saying this to really highlight the point. Let's say we go with what For Harriet is talking about. No rules, no regulations, no standards, all inclusivity, all that shit. Don't do whatever you don't feel like doing. Okay, fine. Okay. I do not expect to hear not one single peep about what black men are not doing at that point. I'm like, whoa, you doing whatever the fuck you want to do. We over here doing whatever the fuck we want to do. Again, you don't have a community at that point. It's total anarchy. You got nobody is obligated to anyone else at that point. You know what I mean? Like what For Harriet is talking, it's radical. Like it's nonsensical. It's nonsensical to sit there and say, and I'm saying she has already stated it. She stated it twice. Before with the whole what she believes single mothers should be entitled to, and again, which requires resources. And then she stated it again in terms of what she feels that all of the quote unquote undesirables are entitled to, what they deserve. Aren't they deserving of protection? Who said, like, how do you maintain, like, check this out. How do you not believe in patriarchy, but yet you maintain the idea of protection of women and then also apply it to transgender women? How do you do that? How do you tear down the whole structure? That protection comes from the very patriarchy that she despises. But see, she wants to, like many women do, want to make it out to be something that's innate. Everything that women get is just something that intrinsically, they get. Like, it's just like they intrinsically have value to men. You know what I'm saying? They intrinsically have desire, but it's all intrinsic. It's just there. It's just the way that it is. Even though men's value to women is not intrinsic. Seriously, what is intrinsically valuable about black men? Go ahead. I'll wait. Tell me. What is intrinsically valuable about black? Nothing. Men have to earn their stripes. I mean, that's the whole argument behind broke dustiness. If a man can't provide, if he can't protect, then he has no use, to a woman. Nigga, you ain't doing nothing for me. What are you doing for me? You're not upholding my beauty. You're not protecting me. You're not providing. Okay. Why should I give you immortality? Why should I have your seed? Why? What do you do? And then not to mention the fact, even if I do have your seed, right? I'm saying, what guarantees the survival of our seed if you can't even provide basic necessities? You see? That's the power that women hold in terms of, men can try to pick and grab and choose on all the women. Women are used to rejection. Men are used to rejection. Women are not. You see, women, again, if the woman is desirable, you got black women out here, they've been getting hit on since they were 12 years old. You see, men are not used to that type of, the people coming at them like that. Another reason why the whole transgender women thing becomes an issue. You know what I mean? Because you'll have a transgender woman pushing up on a heterosexual man. You know what I mean? They're not used to somebody coming up to them like that. You see? But what was I saying? It was somewhere I was going with the who's used to that sort of, I just lost my train of thought. It was something I was going to say about being used to, who's used to what. I'm just saying, women have a substantial amount of power as it pertains to determining who gets to have a baby, whose genes go forward. I mean, unless, of course, you're talking about rape or something like that. I'm saying women determine, who gets to be a father. Plain and simple, especially with the women running around screaming, my body, my choice. They determine that shit. But, shit gets, see, this is why society has structures, because once you dive into, people doing whatever they want, nobody's obligated to one another. You can't then unilaterally make one side obligated to the other side. And then this is where, I look at black women and I look at like the things that 50 Cent is saying and Lil Wayne is saying and, how, they go out there and they're, you got black men that are elevating other races of women. And I'm like, look, we understand white supremacy. We understand the power of the media. But then you got all this background noise going on in the black community where it's like black men have no role. It's not even a concept of a role. And then you got people running around, even when you're discussing just the concept. Yes, we know it's not there. We know it doesn't exist. But I'm saying even when you're talking about correction and the concept of it, you got all type of people that come with all type of stupid ideas that smack it down. You know what I mean? A black man who's got two nickels to rub together, unionized job or something like that or better, he can live up to the very much promoted standard of society of being a patriarchal provider and protector. Okay? He bought the house. He found a woman. They moved into some suburb. He's raising his kids. And regardless of what woman is on his arm, you really can't tell that motherfucker shit. You really can't. You see? And so, it's like you already got the media that's working against black women or the fact that there's no counter media or no black male controlled media that's promoting and elevating the desirability and image of black women. And then on top of that, you got all this noise in the background. You got all this feminism in the background, all this you need to get with a transgender in the background, and trying to, I mean, really beat and shame black men over the head to get them to want what they don't want. I'm like, nah, that's grounds to walk. Because, without these conversations, every black man's, if we didn't come online, to be honest, every black man would feel like they're entering this by themselves. They would sit there and they would be like, man, like, I don't want what they talking about though. Like, and they don't even know, like, you get a little black boy, like, he don't even know, like, people are trying to push shit on him. And he's like, yo, I don't, like, that's not even desirable. Like, that's not even cool. And people are just trying to push all this shit on him. You should want to date single mothers. You should want a fat bitch because in ancient Africa, you should want a matriarch. You should want role reversal. And then here comes this soft, sweet, feminine, non-black woman who came from an intact patriarchal home and everything is girly as fuck, looks good, knows to maintain her weight. I'm like, please. You know what I'm saying? I hate to say it, but there's a lot of black women in the black community that will not be able to compete with that. Just on the outright. They're not going to be able to compete with that. So when I hear brothers make colorist or quote unquote self-hating statements or elevating other women, as much as I want to sit there and agree with the women and be like, yeah, that's fucked up. Black men are fucked up and everything. I cannot sit there and act like I don't understand where that shit comes from. You know what I'm saying? When you look at how matriarchal, role reversed the black community is and everything, like, it's like there's an element of, yes, social conditioning, and there's also an element of hard wiring. Where like you don't have to explain to a heteronormative cisgendered woman why she's attracted to a man, who's 6'6" and 290 pounds or some shit of pure muscle. You don't have to explain. It doesn't need to be explained. It's just she sees it and she gets turned on. That's all there is to it. And men are the same way when it comes to women who are feminine and attractive and all that other shit. I don't care how much you will have morbidly obese women talking about what they think they're entitled to. I can guarantee you for the next 1,000 years, men will not be attracted to morbidly obese women. Try as they may, try as much as they will when it comes to, mainstream media and all that shit. It won't happen. And the reality of that not happening, again, that's something that, they'd have to take up with nature. Because truth be told, if morbid obesity was equally as attractive or desirable as a person that's normal size, then we would all be obese. All of us, every person on planet Earth would be obese because that would more or less be the standard. Just as women keep hyper selecting for taller and taller and taller men. Where all women want a man to be taller than them. That doesn't even need explanation. Just as most black people in Africa are dark skinned, obviously because that was naturally selected for. Plain and simple. Just as pale skin was naturally selected for in Europe. Why? Because most of the time they have overcast in Europe. So they don't need dark skin in Europe because there's overcast. Okay, where black people, if a black person in Scandinavia, a ton of them are vitamin D deficient. Hell, I I'm over here on the East Coast and I was vitamin D deficient. Got my blood work done. And, I'm looking at my vitamin D. That shit is on the floor. My calcium was good, but my vitamin D was on the floor. And you get vitamin D from sunlight. But if I think about it, I'm like, damn, I do spend literally 98% of my day indoors. So the shit is wild. So I do need to end this video. I'm saying all this to just drive home the point about how, I don't know, like it just we are, the community is going to be divided into two different groups. And I don't even know why many of us in the heteronormative cisgendered camp that believe in patriarchy and hypergamy and all that are even really concerned, because we do have a counter narrative, I mean, that we're here online. This is the counter narrative. And the other thing is that, what was I going to say, aside from the counter narrative, we are the majority. I mean, see, media warps a lot of shit, because media really makes you think that there's more of a particular mindset out there than actually is, and that really it creates a false sense of urgency on some things where there really is no sense of urgency. It's kind of the same way where, despite, 80% or more black men, or 85% more black men going out here and being with black women, you would, let TV tell it we're all with white women. Now, yeah, there's an underlying issue that goes on in the background, as it pertains to, desirability, in entertainment, what 50 Cent was saying. I mean, these are high profile men, and them saying that, is, it would take 100 regular dudes to offset that, more than that, maybe 1,000. Not to mention, why, the real reason why a lot of sisters really, that gets underneath their skin and whatnot, it's because the black community is broken. Back in the day, yeah, at least she's a woman of color would have flown, because you still had people who were working. You still had people who were gainfully employed. The community was better off, going all the way back to post World War II. But and then on top of that, the numbers were still extremely low because of the, the racism that existed in this country. But now it's like the women that black men are elevating over black women look nothing like black women. And it's one of the reasons why, a Hispanic woman is not going to be threatened, or a white woman is not going to be threatened by a Hispanic woman, being beat out over them, to where, they're making videos about it all over the place, because at the end of the day, that doesn't really challenge her beauty. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether you pick Denise Richards or Jennifer Lopez, like, they're still, European, to a high degree. So it doesn't really undermine, oh my God, they're out here picking Latino women. You see what I'm saying? Even with Asian women, I know that maybe a lot of white women don't like that, but again, their community is intact, and Asian women still have straight hair. Asian women are still fair skinned. Only difference is the eyes. You know what I'm saying? That's really the only difference. But with black women are unique. And so a black man who's interested in other women, it's hard for them to believe that, how could you be interested in another woman and still be interested in me? With the 4C hair and, West, African features and dark skin, because there's a huge contrast there. I mean, white women will feel the same way when they see a white guy, with a black woman. It's like, damn, he really must not be interested in white women, because, there's just nothing I have that can, compete with what she's got. If he wants 4C hair, well, I don't have that. I can't compete with that. Unlike a white woman and an Asian woman, they basically got the same texture hair. But I think it really comes down to the community being broken. You know what I'm saying? If a white man wants to go out there and be with a black woman, you know what I mean? Okay, Chad, we'll see. Don't worry. We got this covered, brother. Okay, Tom, Kenny, Steven, let's go back and, have a barbecue or some shit like that. Like, the white community is not collapsing because, one white man went out there and got with a black woman. It's not happening at epidemic levels. And on top of that, the white community is intact. Where in the black community, if a black man goes off and gets with a white woman, right? Not only can the black woman not compete with that, but let's say the black man is a doctor. Can the black community really afford losing that brother? Can it really afford that? On top of the fact that the black community is already being bombarded with all type of messages that foster and facilitate self-hatred and colorism and anti-blackness and, anti-personal indoctrination, inferiority complexes, association with poverty and everything else. Like there's already like 10 other things that would have a black boy, want to leave the black community. Again, like I said before, even if a black boy goes out here and let's say he's from North Philly, even if he gets the black woman of his dreams, chances are he's not going to stay in North Philly if he gets some resources. And this is part of the problem with us not having our own schools and indoctrinating whole classes of young men with the same mindset. See, what you really need in the black community is you need an industry that hires a bunch of young guys that just graduated high school. They all start working. They all have babies at the same time, right around 24 and 25, and then, they all move into the same neighborhood, buy the same houses like it's a Levittown. Then you will see an intact black community. But the problem is that, there is no, and maybe this could be corrected because we have online and internet now, but I'm saying there's no, what do you call it? Integration, of these different groups of young men that are graduating at the same time. You know what I mean? Like even if they graduate at the same time, let's say 80% of my black boys of the class of 2020 graduate. Okay. In the next 5 years, how many of them are going to be gainfully employed? Right. In the next 7 years, how many of them will be gainfully employed and be able to take on a family? You see what I'm saying? So the numbers just start falling off, and I just said how many would be left. I didn't even go into, the mass incarceration or whatever, depending on the demographics of the environment. But typically, predominantly black high schools are in predominantly black communities, and predominantly black communities are predominantly poor. You see? So, this is one of the reasons why, Captain Solo and myself talk about jobs and unions and gainful employment. I got a video. I'll put the video in the community chat or I'll put it in the description box here. I want you to listen to the type of wages that this guy is talking about when it comes to a line worker, the guys that do the electrical work on, the power lines and stuff like that. OK, I want you to listen to the numbers that he's throwing out in terms of, what they're receiving. Their damn annuity is more than the fucking $10 an hour that these motherfuckers are talking about. Other black men that I used to argue with online when it came to talking about or highlighting why young men need gainful employment. If you're talking about supporting a family and fixing the black community and getting us out of this role reversed, non-patriarchal, matriarchal orientation. You see. But, the reason why the women feel, some type of way about that more than ever, is not just because of the way that, everybody can now fart their disrespect into the universe via the internet and tweets and freaking Instagram and TikTok and all other type of bullshit and YouTube. But also, again, because the community is broken. If the community was more intact and there were black neighborhoods, thriving black neighborhoods where you saw nothing but houses of black women married to black men, that wouldn't, you being with a white chick wouldn't even make a dent. You know what I mean? They'd be like, okay, all right, he want a white girl, so they wouldn't feel the loss. You see, they feel the loss because, it's like, you look at the community and like they're left with nothing but poverty and crime and single motherhood. And then on top of that, you don't even think they're pretty, like it's fucked. So, these are things that just need to be worked on, but we do not need to be having these conversations about heteronormative, cisgendered, white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchy must be done away. I'm telling you. This shit needs to be called the fuck out, just like Black Lives Matter has been called out with their LGBT, agenda. And don't get it twisted. These people are going to come for, people like myself or, they're going to come for us, talking this hetero, it's going to be cancel culture all day. You know what I mean? And the crazy thing is these people that are pushing for cancel culture are the same people that are talking about we need prison reform. When prison, the incarceration of black people is by definition cancel culture. Because once you get a felony, is that not cancel culture? You can't vote, you can't get a gun, you're discriminated in housing, you're discriminated in loans, you can't get loans for college and FAFSA and all that other shit, right? Is that not cancel culture? Right? You catch a felony, this society treats you like you shouldn't even live. You shouldn't even eat anymore. How dare you? You pissed everybody off. You don't even deserve, to be able to get a job and work and have gainful employment, despite the fact that you may have children that are dependent on you as the father. You see? But yet these people will be swift and quick to jump up and sit there and, talk about, that bitch needs to be canceled. That nigga needs to be canceled. This person needs to be canceled. I got mixed feelings on that white woman in the park with the dog, how Christian Cooper doesn't want to, he doesn't want to throw her under the bus. Because I'm like, nigga, she was about to throw you under the bus. She was about to take your life away and have you in jail off of false accusation. Or maybe some cops would show up and then, say that you were armed and your cell phone was a gun and they blew you away like it's happened so many times. So I'm like, nah, man, look, leave that bitch on the fucking on the torch, or what do you call that shit? Burn her at the stake, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, I do look at it like, this sort of cancel culture does need to die, where you have, the very people who are running around screaming social justice and how offensive everything is are the same people who turn around and then want to cancel everybody because they disagree with them. I saw the comments for Harriet's whatever on her live chat. Man, Chrissy got brought up so many times in that comment section, it was pathetic. You know what I mean? And they were just in there. I unsubscribed from Chrissy because she's transphobic. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, fuck them bitches, man. I'm like, and I'm gonna say this shit publicly. As many disagreements Chrissy and I have had in the past, small, big, whatever, I'm saying, and again, sometimes, shit would be taken personally, even though I'm more about the exchange of ideas and arguments and debate and all that other shit. But I fully support Chrissy on, her hypergamous, conversation. Yes, from time to time, it sounds like gold digging. And, I question sometimes whether any of these women are even really like black men. Because I'm like, you don't have no respect for them. You know what I'm saying? Black men are just as much Chevys as to many black women as black men are Chevys. You know what I'm saying? Black men are, black men are just as much Chevys to black women as black women are Chevys to black men. You're just a black man. You're just a black woman. No matter how much you do or how much you provide individually, you know what I mean? You got to, solve world hunger before I, submit or whatever. And then you got people that they're already on some other shit and they're just using that shit as a busy assignment, to try to get you to go off and fix some shit or obtain some shit that they really have no hope or faith in you actually doing. They're just trying to, assign you a busy job so that they can forever and perpetually slam you about you not living up to their standards. You see? They create this false goal. And then when you get too close to the goal, they move the goalpost, right? We've talked about that before. It starts off with, we're looking for a BMW, a black man working, too many black men are unemployed and underemployed. I'm just looking for a good brother. And then once the brothers are, in the position to provide for a family, then the women turn around and they start talking about, he needs to win a race war. You're still the white man's. But I'm like, you goalpost moving. Look, I'm not saying that shouldn't be a goal for us to be autonomous and self-sufficient as a race of men. I'm with you 100%. But, again, we were just talking about, y'all linking up and having kids. And you over here talking about he must run a race war in order for you to submit to him and fucking stay in the fucking car and not get the hell out while you're pregnant so that he can protect your damn ass. You know what I mean? But again, because they don't like all the shit that comes with patriarchy and all of their female obligations to patriarchy and the shit that they have to live up to, just like that black woman said in that clip that I did, they don't want to live up to it. They want to make it of old evil black men, come up with some other excuses and everything. And don't get it twisted. A lot of black men do the same shit. You know what I mean? But just like that woman said, we don't want to establish standards, because we fear that we might have to live up to them. And I was like, oh, I mean, that couldn't have been better said. But I want to make this crystal clear, and then I'm done with this video. I'm in full support. Again, fuck all the insignificant bullshit. I'm saying, between what For Harriet is talking versus what Chrissy is talking, no, I'm in full support of black women being feminine, keeping their weight in order, looking good and all that shit, and I'm in full support of that. You know what I mean? Because I am sick and tired of black women out here looking manly and masculine and having all these sorts of just aggressive behaviors that I'm not attracted to. Plain and simple. People can talk about, pro-black Wakanda forever all they want. I don't advise to any brother to get with a woman that he really doesn't want because he's not attracted to her or because she doesn't move him and whatnot. And again, obviously this doesn't apply to the extreme colorist, but I'm saying, a black men that are into black women, there should be no objections when women talk about losing weight and, dolling themselves up and being more feminine. You know what I mean? And women, I'm going to tell you right now, ignore the broke, dusty dudes that are trying to shame you out of being feminine and dainty and everything else. Because a lot of them, the only reason they're saying that is because they recognize that there's a cost that comes with that. These are these broke, dusty dudes that want to jump up and try to tell you, that you should be low maintenance so that they can come with no maintenance. You get what I'm saying? So don't subscribe to that. You want a high status male, be a high status woman, be a high caliber woman. Maybe not a high status woman, because obviously that's going to conflict with, your financial prowess and his financial prowess. And then you'll be fighting over power and whatnot. I'm not telling you not to have a career or anything else like that. I'm just saying be a high caliber woman, because high caliber men want high caliber women. That's just the way it is. If that leaves For Harriet and her camp feeling some type of way, well, then it just leaves them feeling some type of way. But just fuck all that bullshit she's talking about with all this, feminista Jones, man, woman, man, transgender women, morbidly obese women, ugly women, unattractive women, single mothers, and everything that no woman would ever even encourage her son to go out there and get. Like, nah, just because, and I don't understand people, let me put myself in their shoes. Yes, the world is not fair, as you heard me first time said a long time ago when she first came online. And I get people's frustration. But to burn the world down and fuck it up for everybody else, at the expense of the black community, like, fuck you on that shit. Fuck anybody on that shit. And that's just all there is to it. So, that's pretty much all I have to say. That's my video. SWP out.